Ted Keith does a phenomenal job with MLB with Sports Illustrated and joins us here on Big Board Sports 104.5 at Team ESPN Radio. Hey, Ted, Roger Weiland in Albany. Good morning.
Good morning, Roger. How are you?
Good, man. Appreciate a few minutes. It's been a while. I thank you for joining our show. We're now on a new station, ESPN, here on 104.5 the Team in Albany. But let's start with Sonny Gray. You expect him to be moved to the Yankees before the 4 o'clock trading deadline?
I do. Based on the reports that have been coming in from all corners, I don't think you get this far down the road and not make a deal. I understand the Yankees' hesitation here, if in fact the hesitation is on their end. I mean, there's really no reason for the A's not to make the move. So it's really, what do the Yankees feel comfortable parting with? And I think this is the most interesting name out there, and I also think it's the most impactful name out there. So I'm sure the A's are pushing to get a nice return, because Billy Beane has said he's tired of having to do this every year. He wants to build a sustainable roster, and he wasn't able to do it really with Sonny Gray being a part of it. So whatever guys he gets back, I think he wants to feel like are part of a sustainable rebuild. But I think there are untouchable guys that the Yankees won't move, and if that's the sticking point, then maybe the deal wouldn't happen at all. But surely there's a combination that can be worked out that would satisfy everybody. But I don't expect Clint Frazier to go. I don't expect Gleyber Torres to go. So it's really those next guys down the list that we'll have to see if Oakland's willing to take them.
Yeah, it's got to be the next tier, because I agree with you. I think Torres and Frazier are going absolutely nowhere, and I think Billy Beane knows that, so he's going to try to do whatever he can to get their next second-tier best players. Is there some concerns? I think it's a great move of the Yankees, and one that the Yankee fans will be happy with, but are there concerns with Sonny Gray, Keith, with his injury concerns?
I think that's always a concern with a pitcher. But what's the flip side? The flip side is you get a young, cost-controlled guy, very cheap, for the next, I think he's through 2019, so you're getting him for 2.5 seasons. And for a team that has to build a rotation, not just, for this year, but going forward, like, you still don't know. I think at this point you kind of don't count on Michael Pineda. Flashes of brilliance, but not a guy that you're going to think, okay, we're set because we have Michael Pineda. Masahiro Tanaka was outstanding the other night, but he's mostly been not good this year. CC Sabathia is obviously not a guy you're building around for your future. So they need a new starting pitcher to kind of anchor the staff. And if that's what they're going to get, then you hope that those aren't sustainable long-term injuries that are going to come back to be a problem for Sonny Gray, because if it is, obviously that changes the dynamic completely. And maybe that's one of the sticking points, is they feel like they don't know that they're getting a reliable guy who's going to take the ball 34 times for the next 3 years. But if you're the Yankees, you got to get starting pitching somewhere. Even though their bullpen is so good that you're really looking for the barest minimum out of your starters. Certainly this season, you're looking for 5 innings, maybe not even 6 innings. But going forward, you got to build around somebody, and I think that's what they think Sonny Gray can be.
Ted Keith of Sports Illustrated with us here on 104.5 the Team ESPN Radio. You can find Ted on Twitter at @SI_Ted Keith. Ted, I know you'll agree, baseball's just better when the Yankees and Red Sox are near the top of the AL East the way they are right now, and the way they are in kind of this arms race, or at least trying to accumulate as much talent as they can for the final 2 months. Addison Reed goes from the Mets to the Red Sox here this morning. How does he make them better and maybe good enough to win that division?
Yeah, I'm not sure he does, honestly. I mean, not all by himself anyway. I mean, to me, the Red Sox they're getting a middle reliever and a good one, but one single middle reliever is not going to put you over the top. So they've got an outstanding closer in Craig Kimbrell. They've got to get their starting pitching straightened out. I mean, if they have Chris Sale, Rick Porcello, and David Price, that's a rotation that you would love, any team would love to have, but Price has obviously been a little bit of a question mark based on not just his performance, but also the way he seems to be handling himself in Boston. And Rick Porcello has been pretty terrible this year after winning the Cy Young Award. So if they get a starting pitcher, that's a different part of the equation. But you're right. To your larger point, I do think it's more interesting with the Yankees-Red Sox dynamic going on, because those are national brand teams. It's good for the sport in general when fans of all 30 teams feel like their club has a shot at the beginning of the year. But as far as driving, broad national interest in the conversation around baseball, I think it's always good to have the Yankees and Red Sox be in that mix.
Does Boston have the prospects left in their system to get a Yu Darvish or Sonny Gray today?
Well, I'm not sure Yu Darvish is a guy. I mean, I wouldn't give up a huge return for Yu Darvish, to be quite frank with you. I mean, to me, those rentals just scare me. I'm not, 2 years or 2 months of a guy for a top prospect. I just don't think that I would do that. And if I'm the Red Sox, don't you feel like you've got better options in-house? Like, I mean, if Rick Porcello, let's say, gets straightened out, that's like adding Yu Darvish at the trade deadline. You have to give anybody up for him. So, they're not going to trade, obviously, Rafael Devers or Andrew Benintendi or any guys like that. So, it's an interesting dynamic. I don't know what the Rangers are looking for, but it used to be that rentals were guys who got moved at the trade deadline, and now you hear guys talking about trading guys who are a year and a half away as opposed to half a year away from free agency, a year and a half. And that's why you heard names dangled without any kind of, real juice behind them. But people have floated the idea, well, what about Manny Machado? He'll be a free agent at the end of next season. If the Orioles are trading their closers and their relievers, maybe they just try and get a maximum return on Manny Machado. But, that would be you're talking about a surprise move that might happen on deadline day. That would be a huge surprise to me. But that would also be the most exciting trade of the day, I think, if Manny Machado got traded when we hadn't been hearing too much about him. So that's the level of the difference between getting a rental to me and getting a guy who has more value to you because he's going to be around longer.
Ted Keith with us, Sports Illustrated. Yankee fans are pumped up, and if they get Sonny Gray, this team all of a sudden is like, they were looking ahead to next year being the year. Can now this year be the year with this Yankee team the way they have played? They're currently in first place right now in the American League East. Can this team, Ted, play October baseball?
Absolutely. And a year ago at this time on this day, I said that the Yankees were basically punting 2017 and building for 2018 with the trades that they had made. And obviously that turned out to be wrong. What's interesting about what the Yankees have done is that they've basically built a bullpen for the modern age. It used to be about getting starting pitchers at the deadline. That was going to change your fortune. Randy Johnson, David Cohn, when the Yankees got him back in 1995. And there have been other pitchers moved. David Cohn in 92, going to the Blue Jays, helped them win a World Series. And that was sort of the narrative for a long time. And now the game is so much about relief pitching that what the Yankees have done is set up a situation where, Dellin Betances, Tom Finley, David Robertson, Adam Warren, Aroldis Chapman, that's 5 guys that you could cover, a game if you had to with no problem and still use most, if not all of them again the very next day. So I think that getting Sonny Gray is an essential piece for the Yankees in the postseason. It certainly doesn't hurt them at all, but they've built a team that can score a lot of runs and can lock you down in the bullpen. And that is the formula for winning right now in 2017, I think. So, yeah, they've built a team to do that, and getting Sonny Gray just makes it that much more compelling. Now, look, there's other good teams in the American League. Obviously, the Astros are the best team by a long shot. The Indians have won 9 in a row. But the Yankees, if they get in and if they avoid that wild card game, they would be a very dangerous October team, I think, because of the way that they're structured.
And do you expect Aaron Judge to turn it around? Because he clearly right now is in a slump.
Yeah, I think he has to at some point. I mean, he can't strike out 2 times a game for the rest of the year. But, look, teams are starting to figure him out a little bit. This was always a concern with Judge, was that he was going to strike out. But to me, I was frankly more surprised that his batting average was as high as it was, in the 330s, and the on-base percentage was leading the American League. So I don't know that I ever expected him to keep that up. But if we're talking about a guy who's going to finish with 40-plus home runs and 110 RBIs, we'll live with a couple of strikeouts if that's the case. But, yeah, now it's his turn to make an adjustment. He adjusted before the season. The pitchers are adjusting back to him. He's got to do the same in kind now. That's what great hitters do, and we'll see if he can do it.
Hey, Ted, one more for me to let you go, and that is the Mets. They already made a move with Addison Reed going to Boston. Do you expect some other players on the Mets to be moved at the trading deadline, like a Asdrubal Cabrera, or maybe a Jay Bruce, or maybe a Curtis Granderson? Do you see more moves with the Mets? Yeah,
I think all 3 of those guys should get moved. Granderson, I think, is sort of a classic deadline pickup. He can be he can start, he can be a 4th outfielder, whatever. Jay Bruce, kind of a classic DH if teams want to go get him. Cabrera seems to be a little bit unhappy. The Mets are one of those teams where I wouldn't trade everybody if I thought there was value beyond this season for them. Like, people have floated, what about one of their pitchers, Jacob deGrom? Like, to me, that's crazy. You're only a year removed from back-to-back playoff appearances. Like, why not give yourself a chance and say this is sort of a fluke year and a lost year? Don't trade guys who have value for you in 2018 and beyond. But those three guys, if someone's willing to give you guys who will help you in 2018, I wouldn't hesitate to pull the trigger on pulling one of them.
Ted, busy day for you, I know, leading up to the 4 o'clock trading deadline. Thanks so much for spending a few minutes with us here on Big Board Sports on 104.5 at Team ESPN Radio.
Great. Glad to talk to you again.